All right. Today is July 16th. This is our fortnightly meeting on design and usability issues. Recently, anyone who's been watching these meetings have noticed we've been very focused on the new Ready to Wear core initiative, which will make it so that people can use Backdrop without needing to know how to create or modify themes. Luke, do you want to give us an update? I know you had a meeting last night with a lot of great ideas coming out of it.
Yeah. So much. Let me see if I can figure out a way to boil it down to something useful. The idea of the Ready to Wear theme initiative is that people should be able to download Backdrop and create a site that has more than one general looks to it, and be able to confidently choose between different presentations without having to have in-depth knowledge of either the technical pieces, how things are wired together in the back end, or with heavy art school design sensibilities. We want to have it so that somebody that really doesn't know anything except for whatever they're making a site about can relatively simply choose from more than one presentation style. And we're going to introduce ourselves. We skipped that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, oh geez, I forgot introductions. I was going to ask maybe if you could introduce yourself since you're doing the theme initiative update first.
Sure. So getting to the show, I'm Luke McCormick. I'm a web product management consultant in San Ramon, California, and obsessed with the Ready to Wear theme initiative.
Great. Tim, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Tim Erickson, coming to you from Deerwood, Minnesota today. And yeah, I really got nothing. Haven't had as much time as I'd like for Backdrop stuff lately, so I got nothing hot on my agenda, but I'm looking for things to work on and excited to hear about the Ready to Wear initiative, or whatever we choose to call it. Go ahead.
Gregory, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Greg. I'm joining from Greece. Yeah, I've been going through the queue and just trying to clean up some old queues, and then some recent discussions. Always when I do things over the UI, especially when I watch other people like Luke struggle with things, I get ideas of how to improve things. So I've been raising tickets in the queue lately, and yeah, trying to help as much as I can wherever I can.
Great. I am Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California, and I am very excited about the Ready to Wear, or whatever we're going to call it, initiative. And I've been trying all week to make progress on it, and I'm only making very tiny steps. But one day I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff to show you on a Thursday, and it'll be fantastic. All right. Let's see. Should we turn it back over to you, Luke? Do you have more to share? I know.
Well, so much to share that I mean I would basically end up trying to restart the meeting that Gregory and I had last night and try to put those in. Why don't I throw it over to Gregory? If you want to talk for a little bit, then I'll just complain about things, which is what I'm more comfortable doing.
Yeah, sure. So I have to admit that before I had this session with Luke earlier, I'm saying earlier and you say last night, because time difference. But and I didn't have a good, I couldn't wrap my head around what the initiative was. So we started going by the agenda, and there's a clear goal defined in the agenda, but there was no deliverable defined as what is going to be the product. Is it going to be a specific module? Is it going to be a change in core? Is it going to be a set of contrib modules, or any of those, a combination of any of those? We started drafting something, but we didn't end up, did we? We didn't finalize it. There were a few things. There was a lot of things to discuss, we took a tour of how things are done in Backdrop, and then look, it was obvious that Luke has not been up to date with certain changes, and he was presently surprised multiple times of the things that we've added. And then we took we spun up a demo of Backdrop and a demo of WordPress, and we took like sort of like a tour around how people browse and explore different things and how they get to try it or preview what they will get. We discussed around various. There was a lot of brainstorming or ideas, and we didn't conclude in a specific set of things, but it was a very useful discussion. We took notes of certain things. Maybe we need to clean up the theme picking and the theme browsing UI on our end. But we do need to have a set of themes that will serve the purpose of, swapping them and giving people an idea of what can be done. One of the pain points that Luke expressed was that with both Backdrop and WordPress, you get in order to get a preview, all you get is a screenshot of the theme, right? And when you browse those themes, you get a mixture of design and content. So it's not, you cannot compare same things. So the preference in Luke's case was that he would like the same kind of content being presented with its theme so that he can compare things, which is not what we do now. Each theme is completely different with each other. So there's no way for him to sort of like get his head around what he's gonna get with its theme. So that was one of the pain points. There were multiple.
Well, let me hijack back for a
Yes.
second, because I think I mean one of the things that I wanted to be cognizant of and careful of it was not the scope creep, not to try to boil the ocean and solve all the world's problems. But last night we sort of came up with such a compelling scope creep that I want to kind of introduce it as a thing, because it's not just sort of like solving our initial problem. It's sort of, if it's true, like solving problems that like everybody, all the systems have experienced, like from the beginning. Because we're talking about the idea of you can't tell what's different when you select a different theme. And even like WordPress, which has this, very, very rich looking interface, you see all these beautiful pictures of the different themes. But since each one, is a screenshot of its own content, 90% of what you see is the choices in the different contents. Like really, you have very little idea unless you like look very precisely and try to be like, okay, is there more spacing in the header there? Like trying to actually figure out what's different about them requires just the kind of expertise that I'm saying, we shouldn't demand of people. So and kind of brainstorming what a better way to get this is. So we ended up in the theme settings, in Backdrop's theme settings window that I guess
the color
Jason,
settings for bases. Yeah, the color settings for bases, basically. Yeah, and the live preview.
Yeah, where there's a live preview and you make choices and you see basically right away. You have to click off the selector, but you see your updates incrementally. And we could have that for just like bigger changes. Like imagine the same kind of preview window, except over here, on one side you have actually just select entirely different themes or different layouts or different color sets. And suddenly, I mean, imagine just those three things. Imagine, 3 different themes, 3 different layouts, 3 different color sets. Now you've got, 27 very different looks that you can get by just clicking, click, and boom, 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 boom. I feel like that's the dream, and it seems pretty plausible, pretty close, pretty obtainable. If I wanted to go for like a super MVP way to do it without having to write new code, I would just in the interface, in the appearance menu, group themes and layouts and theme settings, and maybe change the name of theme settings so it doesn't sound so edge casey. Like it's really more central than that. Like it should be. It shouldn't be something that only experts wander into. It should be everybody on day one as you're setting your site. Choose the colors. Like that seems like a basic thing that I've never done. I don't know. Does everybody else do that? I'm the only one that doesn't do that. Like it seems super critical, and important, and helpful and useful. But
so I think that the reason it's not super critical and helpful and useful right now is because we don't have any good examples of themes that do it. Right? Like right now, the only theme we have that like really supports, I mean, even in Drupal, there aren't any, like, it was like Garland was the only theme that really supported color module, and that was hideous. And in Backdrop, the only theme we have that really supports color module is Basis. And in those themes, like if you start changing colors, you often end up with a much worse result than you started with. And so most developers turn off color module because they're like, don't touch that, it's just going to make things worse. And so nobody knows it's there and nobody uses it. And so I think if we had better criteria about how themes could be using this or should be using this, we might create a world in which this became a very useful feature, and people, it would become more important, and then we should highlight it more. But we're sort of in this chicken and egg thing right now where people are like, that's no good, don't use that. Where if it was usable, then we should highlight it more.
I had this idea of making the presets, the color presets that we have for Basis, not be Basis specific, like expose these, but you have to match the elements for each thing and you have the same names. But if we could find a way to sort of like present different things with the same presets, that would be amazing. Like,
I think
like it,
what we could do is recommend that themes use the Basis color, other themes use the Basis color sets. But I also feel like we're going to get into like Garland land, where like you can't just take Garland and turn it green and expect it to look good. Like you can't just take like X theme and paint it a different color, like because all of the elements have like different size and the colors have different like intensities. Like you can't just take random colors and put them on particular parts of the page on different themes and expect it to like look good. There's like some weird designery thing that I don't understand that like is very carefully like matching the intensity of the color with the amount of page space it takes up to change the way it feels. And even taking like one color and adjusting it slightly when it's used in text, that it's different when it's used in a background color so that it feels the same, even though like the string isn't the same. And the way our color module does it, like find replace strings. And so it doesn't account for that nuance that makes a theme really good. And so I think like having each theme be like, okay, how do I take my theme and make it look good in a different color is a very different thing, where like you can't maybe use the orange that Backdrop Core uses. You need to use like a red instead, or there's something there that I think we need to be careful about. It does make them very hard to compare, right? Because you can't be like, I want to see all these themes in red. But I do think that we're going to end up with a better result that way, if we can let each theme sort of choose like which elements should change colors and which colors they should use. And I think like recommending the starting palettes is good. I mean, like if there are any of Backdrop's color palettes that work for your theme, please use them. But I don't think that allowing all colors to be applied to all themes is a good idea.
Well, what if we surface the theme settings up a little bit higher in the interface?
Can I stop this here, because I'm getting immensely frustrated in that we keep jumping towards sort of solutions to problems that we haven't sort of defined yet, right? What would be really helpful to me is if we sort of settled on like, what are the primary questions we're addressing right now? And I hear us making progress on that, and I'd like to just focus on that for a minute, right?
Yeah.
And to me, the two problems that I keep hearing, we come back to is, one is this ability to test out themes, right? Like, what is the best way to do that? And different kinds of solutions have been presented. One is a site where you go and do that. Another is a module in core. Another is a contrib module, right? And so, I mean, if we can, like, if that is the problem we're coming up with, it would be nice to kind of settle on the big outline, like which of these approaches do we want to start with? And we're not limited to that. I think the other problem that is related that I hear is setting some sort of a criteria about like whatever, if the goal is to have multiple themes that are ready to use, how do we decide if they're ready, right? And so like before we decide, how we're going to implement color palettes, we have to decide, well, is that actually a criteria, right? Because I'm not even, to me personally, I think if we had a theme that just looked good in one color scheme, but was ready to use out of the box, that would be a big improvement. And like to say that every theme has to be, look good in 3 different color schemes might be setting the bar a little higher than we need to start with. So before we solve that other problem, do we even want to solve that, right? I mean, yeah, to me, just being able to pick between 3 or 4 different themes that look good on basic content. And where I keep getting hung up is, and I think this is solved by the first problem, is like, how do we know when something looks good if we haven't defined the criteria? Or, I mean, I like the idea, and I know this isn't the only way of doing this. If I were right now to sort of set what I think the initial goal should be, it would be to create a site with some sample content that we can drop a theme into, and that sample content helps us find what we think should look good, right? That this sample site has blog posts, and like what content does it have? What headers is it using? Like what are all the elements that we think a basic theme should look good with? Because we can't prepare for every scenario. And so if we could kind of settle on like, okay, so anyways, yeah, I would sort of say those 2 things is like, 1, have that sample site, and 2, figure out as we set it up, we would be in a sense defining like what does it need, and that would be sort of setting the criteria for what the theme would be to do that. There are other ways I think to accomplish both those goals, but that's kind of where I would start. And then I would start focusing on the problems. Okay, so now how do we do that? How do we accomplish those 2 things? Sorry, that's my little rant.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess we need to decide if the previewing will be happening on a separate site like a Tagboat instance, or if we will incorporate this capability in core, right? So Luke has started creating something like that. Created a site with multiple themes that you can switch themes. But then I've played around with a little bit with this site, but then I noticed that and the reason why we shifted to the color sort of like in the live preview in core is that if you click the link that says preview the site in full window or something like that in core, all you get is a URL, and at the end it has a question mark and theme equals basis. If you manually change that to theme equals 7, you get the same page with a different theme. So I say we have that mechanism in core already. So we support our live preview already in core. So maybe we're close enough to having something like that in core. Like we have a color scheme previewer, we can have a theme previewer. So the person that comes and adds content can switch themes and say, oh, this looks good with my existing content, whatever I have in this site. This doesn't look, oh, this is closer to what I expected. So they can keep trying besides colors, themes as well.
Right.
And because the live preview that we have is actually, sorry?
I have a question. So right now, I think the number of people who do this it's very, very low. So I would not call this an 80% use case. But I feel like part of this core initiative thing is like to make Backdrop more attractive to the people who do that. So I'm not sure that counting the people who are doing it now is the right answer. So
fair enough.
How do we determine like how much of this belongs in core? Like if we already have the URL support, like at what point do we draw the line of like, okay, core has enough of this in it already versus we need to add a new UI for previewing themes or integrate a theme switcher module or like, that's my question. I don't know if we have an answer or way to answer it yet, but I just want to throw it there.
We don't have, we need, the questions that you asked beg for metrics and we don't have them.
But I don't think
right.
metrics will
But
help.
the assumption is correct that most people new to Backdrop would expect to see what things look like without having to install an instance of it.
or add
We so-
content.
Yeah, we sort of solved that situation, that issue though, because we already have the demos. Like we already have the spin your demo site. So people that do spin demo sites will want to test how the demo site looks in a different theme, right?
Right.
Right. And they can do it still because they can go and browse, install new theme, switch to that, and then preview it. But maybe we can sort of like
So
lessen the steps that they take, maybe.
could also do something like rather than adding stuff to core, we could add stuff to demos.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
wanted to put like theme switcher or something on the demo site, just as an example, that could be something that could make that experience better without needing to put theme switcher in core. And that might
Yep.
be a good first step too, to like, maybe we'll put this in core, but right now we're going to put it on the demo site.
And yeah, the other,
Tim, I think you're muted.
yeah, you muted.
Personally, I'm a long ways away from even thinking of changes to core. To me, there's like so many questions before we get to change in core. It's like, one, we need to have the themes available. Two, what does it mean for that theme to be available, right? In those criteria.
Yep.
So it's like, I'd rather focus on those things. And then I feel like as we're doing that, we're going to realize, oh, you know, what would really help is if this was in core. So, I mean, there might be some things that we know right now could be done to help us in that thing. But to me, there's so many other more pressing questions to move this theme, to move this initiative forward.
Why do we need to limit that to a few specific? I know that Luke has compiled a list of a few candidate themes that is not, it's not a set thing. It's not that we decided, it's just proposal, right? But why should we limit it to accepted themes or whatever? It could be themes that are not ready and people that just skip them. Do we want to, in other words, do we want to moderate the list of themes that people browse? Like, do we want to do that?
I don't think that's my point. My point is that we need to set some sort of benchmark, like a goal to achieve, right? And one possible benchmark or goal would be that we have 3 or 4 themes that we think meet a certain set of criteria, right? That doesn't, the other themes might not meet that, but still be valuable and helpful, but it's just some sort of way of knowing that we've reached, you know, we've made progress. But it's kind of arbitrary, right? And by no means am I saying we should exclude other themes. Like if we had a demo site set up and you know, and we had 3, you know, themes that met our criteria, that doesn't mean we don't have other themes as well that people can demo, right? No, I don't mean to say that.
So no, I think, I mean, my feeling about this is we're actually incredibly close to MVP. That at the same time that scope is expanding, it's expanded, like it's almost like it's what's the opposite of scope creep? Like scope recession. Like rather than, you know, we don't actually probably need as much as maybe I thought we did because more of it's in place. So we can get kind of progress out the door by picking among whatever things we have. There's probably you know 2 or 3 that are kind of ready to go right now that we could just start to get this demo idea, and then we're trying to solve this problem of introducing it as a way for users to get a handle on things. I mean, one of the things that I know is like kind of the biggest irony, you know, because you know, as you guys know, I've checked in and out of the project at different points, and one of the greatest ironies is that I pushed for the dashboard for a while and then disappeared while it was implemented, so I didn't even know what was in the dashboard, and it's really fantastic. It's like my orphan child that I meet as a grown-up. Like, oh, hey, you've turned out really well.
Yeah, and actually there was a link. There was a link in the dashboard to customize the theme, which is another step, right?
Yeah, well, that's just it. You know, I'm looking at the, you know, I fired up the typo thing, which I should do more often. And over in getting started is awfully close to what I have in mind, and close enough that if we had just, you know, a handful of like blessed themes that we believe in, that we're confident give a good impression, we can start with that and be like, so like, if you haven't done anything here, choose one of these things. Like, I mean, they're bullet points in the dashboard right now. In fact, you know, why don't I share a screen just so that instead of like pointing to my off-screen thing, I can just do this, right? So let me just share what everybody's familiar with. It's probably in tiny little. Are
No,
you
it's
seeing my
okay.
screen now?
Yes, yes.
You're seeing the dashboard, right? So I mean, over here is really what I had in mind, but just as bullet points, I don't think it's enough of an attractive nuisance to get to believe that people are going to do that. I feel like we want to be more opinionated with new users. Like, okay, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, here, do this first. You know, click, you know, try these 3 themes. Now you know what themes do. Try these 3 layouts. Now you know what layouts do. You know, try these 3 customizations. Now you know what those. Now you're ready to go on. And I think besides having just a very small number, 2, 3, 4, like blessed themes that we believe in, I think we just need sample content. I need you know, maybe if Tugboat fires up with like, you know, pick one, you know, do you want a portfolio, a blog, a business site, like just, you know, maybe like in the same way, like 2 or 3 choices.
Yeah.
Pick whichever one is kind of closer to what you think you want to do. And that way you can kind of move towards it.
Yeah. This keeps coming up, like the demo content. How does everybody feel about like the Drupal folks have done an incredible job with the Umami thing,
Right.
and it's there so we can grab it. So I'm not sure if this would be a demo content module in Core or something that people can install, but do you guys feel that this is a one of the goals, that sort of like satellite goals with this initiative?
So that's right to the point that I was going to make, which is I think we need to decide right now, and this is a sub question of what I'm about to ask, which is, seems to me the first sort of fork in our road in terms of like, how do we get to a minimum goal, is does this thing need to be in Core, or could it be just a demo site, either a Tugboat site or something? And then a sub question of that is what you're asking, Gregory, is does it need sample content? You know, which that might be less important if it's in Core, because if it's in Core, we assume that the user is going to use their own content. Although I still like the idea of having something like Umami, so I'm not against that. But if we set up a sample site, we almost have to have demo content, because otherwise it's pointless. So I'm definitely in favor of creating something with demo content that people can try themes out on. I'm less convinced if we could do that quickly as a part of Core, and if there was unanimity around that, I would be comfortable with it, but I'm skeptical, 1, that we're going to get buy-in, that we should do it in Core, and 2, I'm also afraid that we're going to get bogged down in technical details. Whereas I think that in a couple of weeks, we could have a good demo site up and running with sample content, and I feel like that would be a lot easier and more achievable first step.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have less resistance without trying to get it into Core. So the next question is,
I feel like the deliverable is a Tugboat configuration. Back to you,
yeah. So what's the next step? Do we make that part of the main site, the demo sites, or do we build a second domain that is demo something blah blah blah? Like, what do you guys feel?
These are good questions, and like, to me, initially my idea, and I think Luke and I talked about this before, my initial idea was we just have a demo.backdrop.cms, which is just a site which users could log into. It's not spin up your own. However, I know since then this idea of like giving people the ability to spin up their own Tugboat demo site has come up, and that would be great too. It feels to me like it's a little bit harder, but it may not be that much. So if it's, you know, if we've got somebody who knows how to help us do that, and we could, then I think we should. That would have to be, I think it would be different. I don't know, would it be, then I think your question, Gregory, is, does that replace our current link on the front page?
Demo.
Right, the demo, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's super simple. I feel like it's just improving that front page Tugboat link. Okay,
the problem though that we have to answer, Luke, if that is true, is if we've decided we're not adding anything to Core, then right now that demo button is, here's what Core is. right? So if we build these new features into that demo button, then that demo button is no longer, here's what core is.
Vanilla.
Now it's
Yeah,
something
it's
else.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the problem that we had before, and there were solutions to that. So the problem was, do we spin up a site that has contributed modules or themes or whatever, and it's ready
Right.
for people to test, or do we spin up a vanilla and let them do it? And that's that solution. Like there's many discussions, and we have solutions for that. It could be a checkbox that says install demo content, or it could be a separate button, one that says vanilla demo or full-blown umami demo, or whatever we call it, right? Again, it's not hard to do. And
I
back-
would like to have a choice of demo content to spin it up with, one of which could be nothing, and that's just what you get from core. And if somebody wanted to see that, they could see, okay, this is what comes out of the box. You probably don't care because you'd probably be more interested in what it would look like with
And
content,
going back,
but sure.
going back to what Tim said, though, if we built a separate site, which is a separate domain, there's nothing that stops linking from the demo page. See how the demo page says spin up a demo site? We can explain that this is a vanilla installation. If you want something with a demo content, click this link here and go to the full-blown whatever.
We should do it the other way around, where we
As in-
show people like best face forward demo, and then be like, you want to see what it looks like when Backtop doesn't have anything on it, here's the hidden empty site, and that way it makes a better first impression. But I do like the idea of having two different ways to demo it. My concern is like how people make that decision, because that was one of the reasons why we removed the install profile choice from the installers. Like, you don't want to have to decide now. I think it would almost be better to have like two different buttons, like two different types of demos. One that installs the empty version like we have now, and then we just copy that and we make a new version that has all the stuff we want in it, and not have that be a question that we ask people anywhere like in the process. We'll just be like, put this button on the homepage, and then on maybe the landing page that we send them to, we're like, give us 5 seconds to make your demo. We can also say, FYI, there's this other thing over here you probably don't want, and leave it there. We can use it like if we're testing core features, like as
Exactly.
we're gonna know it's there, but it won't be something that most people who are testing the software would need.
Yeah, I was about to say that the current demo site that we have implies some kind of experience, a little bit of elevated sort of like level of knowledge. Sorry, let me get that, and you can keep discussing it, but I need to get the phone. Sorry.
Okay.
I hear us all saying the same thing. It sounds like we're in agreement on this. That we want a demo.
Okay. Yes, and so what I think is not clear, and Jen might be the only one here that has the skills to like do the tugboat work to make this available. And I don't even know if you do. It sounds like Peter might, or Nate are the people I know who probably could. And one is we might just need to check with them to find out, do you have the bandwidth to help us integrate this in with Tugboat or not? And if not, then let's just go with something else for now and come back to the Tugboat later. But if either of them or any of us know how to do this in Tugboat, we could get started on that right away. Does that make sense?
For work,
What?
I'm hoping that my normal day-to-day paid work will teach me how to set up Tugboat for one of my client projects, so that I will have these skills, and hopefully I'll be able to then use them for Backdrop. But right, it's still a little bit all magic to me. So
Right.
I think we should lean on Nate or Peter for the short term, and maybe 2 weeks from now I might also be a resource until then.
Peter has done a lot of work, so he may be able to help us with that. And he's set it up on his own site as well. And then Nate can help us out with the DNS and I don't know, spinning up a Linode or whatever we need.
So I think my based on some experimenting I've done with that Simplo stuff that some of you have seen, I suspect the way we do that, we just have a sample set of config in a database ready to spin up a new site, right? So what I would say is a short-term thing to do, really concrete, is to one, sort of check with Nate or Peter, like, how big of a project is this? Is this really doable in the short term? And if so, what do they need from us, right? To start working on it. What do we have to deliver? I think that we've all agreed that sample content is going to be integral to this, no matter what, right? In any of the models we go in, we need some sort of basic sample content. So that's another short-term like goal. Like we can start working on that right away.
We
Let's
have a
have
meeting with them scheduled for 3 minutes from now, so that seems like a question we can ask.
Yes, good point. So getting to work on the sample content is the next thing. And to be honest, I think that gets us a long ways there. I think one of the next things is defining, again, what, when a theme is complete, what we consider to be that. And to some extent, that might just happen through the development of the sample content, right? Is that as we're creating the sample content, we figure out what we think the basic things are in a really simple generic site that should look good in any new theme. Yeah. And really that could be the product of that as opposed to something we need to set up front. I don't know.
And fortunately, I've already started that, right? I've got my Pantheon sandbox. That's really the attempt. The idea was to do exactly that. So I'll continue that, and now gonna like, I think my next increment on that is to try to get advice from designers, like try to get it so that once the bad looking framework is put together, we have, one of those people that knows, okay, when you have like this shade of green, you need that shade of purple, and
See, I'm not even sure.
Right?
I'm not even sure we need to do that. Oh no, I'm not sure we need to do that in the sense that if we have sample content and if we have a demo platform and a place for somebody to put up their theme and showcase it, that other people won't be able to make all the aesthetic decisions, right? We can just say, hey, we want you to, to meet the criteria, which is that your site looks good with these different criteria. And then we maybe don't even have to think about things like colors other than, does it look good, right? And that might be where we want a designer, to give us input on.
Can we crowdsource it? Can we have a thing so that somebody starts with it, puts a theme in, add some content, and then if they like it, they can kind of submit, say, hey, how about this page? And then we can save it.
Crowdsource the content? I'm not sure what you mean.
So in terms of, I think he's talking about in terms of deciding which themes would be promoted, like
a little bit,
or,
yeah. The whole sites, right? Like themes in combination with layouts, in combination with demo content, like really.
The themes and the layouts and the content will be there, and the person who's looking at themes will just put other themes on it. So the only decision I think we need to make is like on that themes picker page, are there any that we want to be like, we know this one's good, look at this one, or not?
Yeah.
And then how do we decide what that
we
is?
don't have to decide. We don't have to decide. If we implement like a star system, people will test it, and if they like it, they will probably upvote it. So
sure. On the one hand, we don't have to decide, Gregory. On the other hand, I see some benefit of having some approved themes, and if we do, and there's an argument that we don't need to do that, but I think it would be helpful. And if we do that, then we have to make a judgment, right, on what meets are approved. But again, by no means does that limit what can go into the system.
Right.
Anybody can submit something, whether it's approved or not.
The demo that we spun up with WordPress with Look had 15 themes that were marked as recommended, and then when you went to popular, it was like 3,500.
Yeah.
So we can do something like that.
Yes,
we can do promoted. Yeah. Right. So and then it was sorted by popularity or usage or what have you. Yeah.
So the main aesthetic choice we have to make is what meets that criteria. But it could go further if themes don't emerge that way on their own. Then the next step might be for us to try and come up with some.
Yeah.
In which case, now we have to make those aesthetic decisions.
Yeah, and I think that I think we should have like our list of deliverables should be really long, and maybe we only get like the first 3 done this iteration. But like having that, like, okay, first make it possible to preview themes, check. Okay. Decide criteria for what themes should be promoted, check. Promote some themes, check. Oh, we need more themes. Fix all the themes, right? And we can kind of have a laundry list of things we'd love to do to make all of this stuff better. And if we only get the first set done in the next 3 months, I think that's fine.
So
Okay,
so I was going to quickly say at last week's meeting, Jen observed that there's been a couple of new themes that have come out recently, and I'd like to consider that the first success of this initiative is that potentially just by us talking about this for the last 3 months is that we've got some people that have already kind of
Yeah.
started to release some themes, because that hadn't happened for
Yeah.
a long time, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden we've had 2 or 3 come out. So
Yeah.
So two things that I want to note because we're closing to the dev meeting. One is, do we start a GitHub repo and get this thing started? Do we discuss with the developers? Is that step one? Like to get a domain and a Linode set up
Well, if we're
so that
gonna
we can
do
start
that
playing?
sandbox, then we don't need any of that because all
Okay.
of the site's gonna live on Lullabot's servers, and we just need the button to be like, show me whatever it is, and all of that is a Tugboat.
but do we want a repo for our own issue queue
Ooh,
for this project or not, or should it
Yes.
be, where should it go? I kind of think so, because it's
yeah,
not
so-
necessarily core.
Right, so I
Yeah,
think the
but-
other Tugboat doesn't need one because it is just core, and core has its own issue queue. But maybe we should. That's a good idea. Okay, yeah, let's do the issue queue, and then this would be around like what modules and themes you want in it, what configuration we might even want included in it, like all the stuff we want for the demo site.
I mean, it seems to parallel what we do with backdropcms.org, right? We've got that kind of infrastructure set up for a site. We need another one of those.
Okay. Okay, I'll just set up another. What do you want to call it? Hardest question of the day.
Demo.
Just demo.
Demo. Yeah.
Okay, that's easy. Done.
Okay, that's
And the sub and the
that's the name
subdomain
of
should
the
be
repo, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Demo.
Okay, that works.
Just for the repo. And we don't, no one's gonna see this except for us, so it'll be okay.
Yeah. So is it going to be under the backdrop ops thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I mean,
All right.
okay,
Is that a wrap?
I think
Yep.
so.
Right. That was great.
And then the last point that I wanted to make, just we won't have the time to discuss it, just to put it there for next time. There's quite a few themes and initiatives in Drupal as well, like Claro and Olivero. And there's also some pretty good themes, the recommended ones from WordPress. Would we want to port and make those the recommended so that that people that come and test it have a familiar sort of like thing of what something that looks like WordPress but has all the benefits of Drupal and Backdrop
We
would
can
look like?
decide later.
Yeah.
But I think that we should do all the things. I think we should look at the Backdrop themes. I think we should look at the Drupal themes. I think we should look at the WordPress
Yep.
themes. And we can use our criteria once we decide what those are to figure
Yep.
out
Yep.
have us
Cool.
close enough. And then if we also want to add some other stuff for comparison, I think is good. But I also don't want to generate a bunch of work for like Backdrop developers to be like, go take something that nobody's ever going to use from Drupal just for demonstration purposes, or
Mhm.
Right.
go take something that nobody's ever going to use from WordPress. But if like I want that theme anyway, then it would make sense. So
Yeah.
but yes, let's decide later.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right.
Yay!
That's a wrap, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks everybody.
See you in a
Yeah,
bit.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you in a while.